Hey guys, welcome back to Playing with Jonesy. I am Sam. Today I'm going to be doing a different type of video, something I have been talking about and I'm so excited about doing it. But first things first, make sure that you guys hit subscribe down below. Make sure you guys follow me on Instagram. So as you guys can see, this is a different kind of video because you guys can see my face. So I do have notes down here that I'm gonna be like referring to, so just so you guys know. And then so I want to first thing say that I am not an expert on this. This is just my real life experience with this. So if you guys have any questions, make sure you guys talk to a doctor. Like I said, this is just my experience. So this video is actually going to be about something called a gastric sleeve, or also known as a VSG. Basically this is where they go in and they cut out half of your stomach to make it smaller so you can't physically hold as much food. Yeah, so that's what it is. So that is the process I have been going through. There are specific requirements and I'm going to talk about that later, but there's different things that I've been going through and this is just a video to talk about it. So if you guys are interested, make sure you stay tuned and we'll just get into it. So I want to talk about the fact that weight loss surgery is huge. This is something that I have been thinking about for a long time, and I've been on the fence for a really long time, and I'm done having kids, and I just have been in this place where I knew that I needed to do something. I've always been a plus size girl, which is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with being plus size, but I've done everything that I can think of to lose weight. Weight Watchers, diets, exercising, and I just haven't been able to keep any weight off. And I personally am not like an overeater. I don't even think I eat 3 meals a day. However, what I eat is awful. I don't make good choices. I never have. So that has always been my issue. It's not how much I eat, it's just what I eat. So anyways, I've always tried to lose weight. I've never been able to keep it off. So finally in May, I decided I've had enough. And I went to the doctor that I was currently at. I was at Virginia Mason, and nothing against Virginia Mason, and I talked to them about it, and even the doctor there had said UW Medicine here in Washington, they have a better weight loss program than Virginia Mason, so that kind of like solidified my my want to go there. So I totally like changed my primary care to go to UW just so I could get into this program. So I started, like I said, I started the program in May. I met my primary care provider and like right off the bat I told her like this is why I switched here, this is what I'm wanting to do. And she instantly was like, I think you'd be a great candidate, you fit all the requirements. Some of the requirements, like the biggest requirement is that basically you have to have a BMI of 40 or higher, or if you don't meet that requirement, you have to have a BMI of 35 or higher with a pre-existing condition that is related to obesity, such as heart disease, diabetes, etc., like things like that. I personally am not 40%. I think I was at 30, I was either at 37 or 36, I don't remember, but I do have diabetes. So that got me in the door. So anyways, I started the program. She said, you're a great candidate. So she had to send a referral to the weight loss center at UW. And then that also meant that I had to get insurance approval, because my insurance is paying for this whole thing. So I had to get insurance approval. With the insurance approval, there are A, B, and C requirements that you have to do. There's a whole list of things that we have to do. So I'm going to get into the list of what their requirements were, and this has kind of been like the steps that I've been going through. So the first insurance requirement was that I had to do 6 months worth of visits with my primary doctor and with a nutritionist. So that meant I had to see my doctor every month for 6 months, and then I had to see a nutritionist twice a month for 6 months. So I had to see nutritionist 12 times, doctor 6 times. At the doctor visits, it was just like a weigh-in and a check-in to see how things are going. The fact that I had diabetes, we would always touch base on that, how that's going with my medication, how am I feeling. And then at the nutrition visits, I mean, we talked about everything. The thing with the nutrition visits that's really hard is they have to know what you're eating. This for me was especially hard because I know you have to like keep a log, and how much I'm eating was never the problem. Like I said before, how much I'm eating was never the problem. The issue was what I was eating. It's embarrassing because they don't pick you apart, but their job is to say, okay, why are you eating this? This is the issue here. And so that was definitely for me the hardest part. This whole 6 months has been just a roller coaster. Because it's just like anything that you do over a course of time. At first you're all in, you're so excited. About halfway you're like, oh my gosh, this is taking forever. And then, the last little bit is you're just like, let's do this, let's go. And it is hard because, at least for me, I definitely plateaued, and I had, one of the requirements is that I had to meet, you have to lose a few pounds, which my insurance was you had to lose 5% of your body fat. So for me personally, I started this at 251. So I had to get down to I had to lose 238. I had to get down to 238. And I know about 242, 241, I totally plateaued. There was no moving. And I bounced around 241, 240, 242, just right in that 3 pound area. And it was just oh my gosh, this is killing me. And you're I'm sticking to the diet. I'm not messing around. And there's just so much that goes into this, and everybody plateaus, and that was the big thing for me that I just couldn't get over, is everybody does it, but this sucks. And the thing that I struggled with a lot was I have never cared about the number on the scale, and I've always been really adamant about that, this whole process. I've never cared about the number on the scale. I don't care. I want to feel good, and I want to look at myself and not hate myself, and I want to have enough energy to play with my kids, or even just going up and down the stairs. I don't want to be tired. I'm tired of being tired. But for this specific thing, there is a number attached to it. If I can't reach this number, I don't qualify for the surgery. So, anyways, it's been a huge process. That 6 months it definitely took a toll on me, and I was like, okay, let's just finish this. And then I finished strong and I hit my goal weight. So that was super exciting. So after I hit the goal weight, after that 6 months, then I could actually go meet the weight loss center. So all of this has been like prerequisites. I hadn't been able to actually go meet anybody at the weight loss center. So I finally was able to get into the weight loss center. And then you have almost like an interview. You have like almost like an interview. And I went and I met with this doctor, and she basically, we just kind of talk about my journey. How did I end up here? What am I hoping to get out of this? Excuse me. And of course, one of the big things with the surgery is surgery is usually like a last resort type situation. It's not, usually you're severely obese and you have many health concerns. You're on all types of medication and this and that and the other. That obviously wasn't my case. I'm barely above the BMI that you need for surgery. And so that was something that we talked about during the interview. Just as far as this isn't medically necessary. I don't have to have this done right now, in order to thrive, really. Like there is a chance that I could lose weight other ways. But like I had said before, like I had never felt successful. So I feel like this is the option now. The other thing that we talked about is my age. And I don't know if I've ever talked to you guys about my age, but I'm only 27. But so that kind of like wrapped into like the health concerns thing, as far as I'm so young and I have time and I'm not like 50 or 60 and have all types of other medical issues. So that was a factor, and she had touched on it many times about, she thought that I have time and this is something that I can wait like a couple years to do. But in the end, I ended up getting into the program. So I was, the whole interview, I was like sweating bullets because I was like, oh my gosh, the way that she was talking, I was like, I'm not getting into this. Like, she has already made up her mind. But I ended up getting in, so that was great. So after I qualified for the program, then they have a whole slew of tests and requirements that they have to do in order to make sure that you are medically ready to have surgery. Just as far as make sure all the insides work correctly, and everything like that. So the first thing that I had to get done was I had to get blood work done. Blood work doesn't bother me at all. Needles don't bother me. I'm totally fine. But like I said before, I do have diabetes. So with diabetes, the thing that they look for is when you're diabetic, if it's not under control, you have a higher chance of getting infections. It's harder for your body to fight off infection if you're diabetic. And it's harder for your body to like heal. So they needed to test my A1C to find out how my blood sugars are doing. So in May is when I was diagnosed with diabetes. So we knew right away that I was diabetic. I started at a 7.5. So diabetic is right around like 6.5 to 7. That is when they usually like diagnose you with diabetes. So mine was 7.5. So I was pretty low, but it's still diabetic. And then in December, when I got them checked, I was at a 6.4. So I had like went down, my blood sugars had went down a whole point in just May to December, so like half of a year in 6 months, just because I have been exercising and watching what I'm eating and doing all this stuff. So my A1C numbers are great. Perfect. The other thing that which like there was a bunch of other stuff that they looked at, but the other thing that really stood out was my vitamin D levels, which I live in Washington, in Seattle, so it's like raining 99% of the time. So vitamin D is not something I get a lot of. But so the normal, which I don't know what these letters stand for at all, but the normal vitamin D amount is 20 to 50 ng per milliliter. So I know the milliliter part, but I don't know what ng is. So normal, like I said, normal is 20 to 50. Mine in December was at 11.2. So I was whole 8 points. What points percent? I don't know. Basically 8 ng per milliliter under what it's supposed to. So because of that, my doctor prescribed me some vitamin D pills to get my vitamin D up, because that's pretty alarming that it's so low. So anyways, but other than that, like everything looks great. My doctor is not concerned at all, and the weight loss center hasn't been concerned at all about it. So the other thing is, so the next thing after I got the blood work, I had to schedule a bunch of appointments. The next appointment that I scheduled was called an upper GI. If anybody does not know what this is, if you guys do know what this is, I'll be impressed. If for those of you who don't know what it is, it's an x-ray of your esophagus. Your esophagus is this area right here, right between your throat and your stomach. So this whole, they call it the pathway to the stomach. So, and this tests for acid reflux, essentially, is what it's doing. They x-ray it and watch you. They're taking a picture of you drinking and watching it go down to make sure nothing is coming back up. So basically what they do is they put you in a bunch of different positions, standing up, laying down, and you have a drink, which is essentially liquid chalk, is what it tastes like. Mine was a berry flavor, so it wasn't awful. But so you have to drink it, and so pretty much you take a sip, and like you have to hold it in your mouth until they say go, and then right at that time they take an x-ray, so your pictures come back with it. Just, I don't know, it's super weird to explain. But needless to say, my test came back great. He didn't have any concerns about my acid reflux at all. I've never suffered from acid reflux, so I wasn't concerned going into it. But it definitely just solidified my, like, okay, I'm good. So then after that, I had to get a test called a pH/manometry test. So a 24-hour pH test and a manometry test. So these are two tests done at the same time. The first one I'm going to talk about is the manometry. Okay, both of these tests are awful. They're awful. But it's something that you have to get done. So for the manometry, they're testing for swallowing issues. Once you have this surgery, they want to make sure that everything you're doing, everything in your body is working correctly, because they don't want you to have to think. If you have problems swallowing and you have to like think about swallowing, it's going to be harder for you to eat and to keep things down after you have the surgery. So they want to make sure that it's one less thing that you have to worry about after surgery. So what they do with this test is about 10 minutes long. 10, maybe 15 minutes long. What they do is they take a tube, maybe maybe like half of the size of my pinky. Okay, half the size of my pinky. And they take this tube, and it's a very long tube, and it has sensors all over the end of it. They take this wonderful tube, they stick it up into your nose, down the back of your throat, down into your esophagus, and then it sits right there. Okay? So there's two things about this, not two things, there's a couple things about this test. What they're checking for is right about, I want to say it's like right here, or right here, I think it's probably right here. Right here you have something called the upper sphincter, I believe it is called. When you swallow, or when you gulp, your upper sphincter opens, okay? So when you gulp, it opens to allow that liquid or food or whatever it is to get into your esophagus, and then it closes back up. And then same thing at the bottom of your esophagus is it's called like I think it's called the lower sphincter, that will open to allow everything that just went through your esophagus into your stomach to be processed. So this tube has to go past your upper sphincter and down, just barely touching the lower sphincter. So that's how long it is, all the way down to your stomach. And it's testing how well this opens and closes. Because if you're swallowing, it has to open, close, open, close. That's what it's testing for. So what they do is they stick this tube down your throat, and then they have you drink water to watch it, and then they're testing what are they testing? They're, like I said, there's sensors all down the bottom, or all down the tube. So it can monitor this water going down to see make sure it's going down good, like how long it's taking. So that was what the test is. So the test that I did, when I checked my results, it says ineffective esophageal motility, which essentially means she had trouble swallowing. This test to me is hilarious because there's a tube in my throat. How am I not gonna struggle to swallow? It took me, so like I said, the test is probably 10 to 15 minutes long. It took me an extraordinarily amount, I don't know if I just said that right. It took me a really long time to get the concept of, because you have something in the back of your throat. It's like when you're sick and you're like you think something's there that you need to get out. So you're constantly like swallowing or like trying to cough up. I'm a swallower, so I would take a drink and then immediately after try to take another drink to get rid of the feeling in the back of my throat. You're not supposed to do that because then it messes with the sensor. So he said I have ineffective motility, but to me that was crap. So anyways, that's that test. The next test that I did is called it was a 24-hour pH test. So like I said, the tube for the manometry is like half the size of my pinky. For the pH test, it was probably like a quarter of the size of my pinky. And it was the same type of situation. I had to go through my nose, down the back of my throat, into my esophagus, and it had to sit there for 24 hours. I think I ended up doing mine for like 23 hours and 15 minutes or something like that. But what they're testing for with this is, this is your lower sphincter. Your stomach is right here and it has all this acid in it. So what they're checking for is if the tube at the bottom of the lower sphincter is sitting here, it's making sure that none of this acid is coming up into and touching this. They want to make sure it's not coming back through the lower sphincter and into your esophagus. That's what it's checking for, is just making sure nothing is getting out of your stomach. And they have to check it for 24 hours. And as far as I know, mine came back okay. It didn't really, like, I hadn't ever heard anything about it. So I think everything came back okay. So like I said, those were just 2 tests, the pH test and the manometry. After that, I had to get a procedure done called an upper endoscopy. This is a procedure where you go into the hospital and you're sedated. I believe it took them 15 minutes, 10 minutes probably. The longest part is definitely like the prep, as far as like getting you sedated, getting all the forms signed, making sure you know what's gonna happen. And what this is they stick a camera down your throat and into your esophagus and into your stomach. And while they're in there, they take little biopsies, which is just little chunks of stuff. And when I say like little chunks, I mean like smaller than my fingernail, like super tiny amounts, like trace stuff, to make sure that you don't have any issues going on inside of your stomach. They take pictures, and just kind of get the lay of the land in there, pretty much. Everything with mine came back great. My doctor said that there was no issues in my stomach. Everything looked normal. So that was definitely encouraging. The next thing that had to happen was I had to go see an internal medicine, or internalist, I think they like to be called. I don't know what they're called. Internal medicine. So this was an insurance requirement. So this had nothing to do with my weight loss stuff. This was just an insurance requirement. And pretty much I just went and I talked to her about my history, like why I'm here, and then what my plan is going forward, if I had any concerns. It was pretty low key. It was more of just kind of another checking in. Everything was great with that. Then after that, I had to meet with a nutritionist specifically who like focuses on bariatric patients, or for bariatric surgery. This specific appointment was the hardest appointment I've had through this whole, I've been doing this since May, so this whole 9 months or whatever this has been. This has by far been the hardest appointment, because she touched on things that none of my other doctors have touched on. And this specific appointment made me feel like what I was doing wasn't gonna work. I really struggled, personally really struggled with this appointment. It was not an encouraging appointment for me. So some of the things that my nutritionist talked about was the fact that I do work graveyard shift, and that means that I get next to no sleep. Understandably, this is a concern, because your body needs to rest, and the way that I have been sleeping, I'm not getting it. I'm just not. However, knowing that that's an issue is one thing. I get it. I totally get it. However, it's something that I'm continually working on, and I take naps all the time, way more naps than I'm sure a lot of moms take. But it's something that I'm working on. And unfortunately, this nutritionist made me feel like I was doing something bad because I was choosing to work over choosing to sleep. And unfortunately, that is just the situation that I'm in. And like I said, that was just one of the things that we touched on. Another thing was we had talked about all the vitamins that you have to take for the rest of your life. It's not like, oh, hey, I need to get better, so I need to take these antibiotics. It's every single day for the rest of your life, you're gonna have to take these medications, or not medications, but these vitamins, because you need to be absorbing them. And this is stuff that you're not gonna be able to get from other stuff. So, those are just a couple of the things. Like I said, I didn't feel super confident leaving that appointment, but those were two of the main points that we talked about. After that nutrition appointment, I had a psychological evaluation. This was the appointment that I thought going into it was gonna be like the make or break. Either they're gonna think that I'm totally crazy and I can't do the surgery, or they're gonna think that I'm like perfect and I have the right headset, or mindset, not headset. So one of the things that we talked about in this appointment was that the surgery is not gonna, I'm not gonna wake up after the surgery and be skinny. That's not the point of this surgery. This surgery is a tool to use. It's a tool to use to get ahead. It's gonna give me an advantage that I've never had before. And that is something that I've known this whole time, that obviously I'm not gonna wake up tomorrow and be a size 6. So, and I'm perfectly okay with that. That's not something that I need in order to be happy. I just, like I said before, I want to feel better. So, and that was like a big thing with this evaluation is, they want to make sure that you understand that this is a huge lifelong decision. This isn't, I'm gonna have a smaller stomach for 2 weeks or for a year. It's gonna be the rest of your life that you're constantly thinking about food and how much you're eating and what you're eating, and that was definitely a huge conversation. The other thing that we talked about was your support system, because this is such a huge deal. You can no longer eat the same. Like your first 2 weeks after surgery, you're on like a liquid diet, and then you can slowly incorporate foods, but I mean, it's changing everything, and they want to make sure that you have a good support system, at home and with friends, and even if that means you have to link up, I mean, they encourage you to link up with a support group, with a weight loss support group, because it's a huge deal, and you need people who are gonna support, to be on your side, and to say you're not making the right decision, or you know, way to go, because it can be intense, is my understanding. And I mean, I haven't even had the surgery yet, and I feel like my whole life it's crazy. And I have a great support system. My husband thinks that it's great that I'm doing this, and I live with my mother-in-law lives with us, and she's super supportive, and she's like, okay, what do we need to do? Obviously my kids don't know, but both my parents are really supportive, and I will say, your support system doesn't always have to be people who think that this is the best idea for you. That is not necessarily what a support system is. Support system is people who say you need to do what makes you happy. My best friend is very much a naturalist, but she 100% thinks if this is what you need to do, then you do you. And that's something I have always really appreciated. And then, so anyhow, by the time I was done with the psychological evaluation, I felt really good. I walked out of there feeling really confident, like I knew exactly what was going to happen, and just really looking forward to the future. So that was the last appointment that I went to. The next things that I have to do is I have to attend a support group, which I'm actually doing soon, within the next couple days. Hopefully I will post this before I go to it, but that's the next step. And then I get to meet the surgeon, get the last insurance approval, and then I will be scheduled for my surgery. So I'm really excited about it. I'm almost there. I'm almost at the end. I just got to keep chugging along. So anyways, I really appreciate you guys watching. I will definitely like keep everybody updated. If you guys follow me on Instagram, make sure you guys keep up, because that is where I post a lot about this whole weight loss thing. And if you guys are interested, comment below, and I'll definitely make sure that I post more about this. So make sure you guys hit subscribe and then comment if you guys want more. I really look forward to it, and I definitely don't mind sharing my experience or answering any questions that you guys might have. So other than that, I will talk to you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye.